at Barber Motorsports Park. The green flies, and Grosjean leads this star-studded field of green.
Great start from Romain Grosjean, side by side behind him as Pato O'Ward tries to go on the outside of Alex Palou, and I think he's going to pull that off. He'll have a great run on Grosjean now into 5.
Oh, Palou's looking good here with a run already. No push to pass, but he has the draft going to the brake zone.
And he's on those softer compound tyres. He said they should work well. And Grosjean runs wide. It opens the door not only for O'Ward, but for Palou. Look at this, wheel to wheel on the opening lap. Grosjean's got the better line and keeps the lead.
Oh, and Palou snuck it inside Pato O'Ward, so Palou was patient but pounced when it mattered.
Here is Grosjean.
29 laps in the books. Romain Grosjean has led every one of them so far. Those primary tires going on. Alex Palou at the front end of pit road going to primaries as well. We'll see the race here. Look at that, a long stop for the 10. Ericsson also in, and Grosjean with a good jump here on pit road.
There's Grosjean. Here comes Alex Palou. There's Pato O'Ward. That's close. Super close between the Ganassi and the McLaren.
Oh, this is going to be spicy down to turn 5, Townsend, side by side through 4, Palou in the marbles.
Pato's got the advantage, hot tires, and Palou had to run wide through the dirty section of the track. So nice move from O'Ward. That puts a car between him and Scott Dixon.
Here comes Christian Lundgaard.
You got to be smart here. I know he wants to pounce, but there are cars battling for position in front. You don't want to make a move. Closing right up. Out at turn 13. Will he dive down the inside? Scott covers.
Dixon defends. He knows that Newgarden style move. And look at this. On the last turn, Lundgaard pounces and gets Scott Dixon. That's a savvy move.
There is a stalled car, the 51 of Stingray Robb.
The Biohaven car has come to a stop.
Alexander Rossi dives into pit lane. They're going to try to get here before that yellow comes, and Scott McLaughlin, the leader, in as well.
If you're a 3-stopper, you want to box right now. There's the caution.
Grosjean will lead this field of green, but how long will he stay in the lead? Here we go.
Pretty good jump from Grosjean. He only has to go about 17 more laps to make his last stop to get to the end. But McLaughlin will be pressing hard.
And it's the two guys who gave us that ultimate theater on the streets of St. Petersburg to start the year. McLaughlin and Grosjean going for the win again. Here's Pato O'Ward, Alex Palou defending from Christian Lundgaard, and Lundgaard does the over and under beautifully.
Remember, no push to pass yet, and what a great move from Christian Lundgaard on those softer alternate tires to go around the 2021 Series champion.
Race leader is in. Now we put our eyes on Romain Grosjean and watch where these two guys come out. One Honda driver, one Chevrolet driver, where they join. Here comes Romain Grosjean.
This is going to be good. McLaughlin comes out ahead, but on cold tires, and Grosjean is going to be pushing 100% for the next couple corners.
Turn 5.
Whatever you want.
Turn 5. Here we go. Setting up. This is where the race was won a year ago with Pato O'Ward and Rinus VeeKay. From a long way back, but he's not close enough. Romain Grosjean's got to do a Joseph Newgarden-style move. Inside opportunity coming up. Can he get his car tight to the right? Tight to the right. No, McLaughlin blocks that.
Watch him try to cross it up and make it happen right here.
Whoa, inside. Romain Grosjean wheel to wheel with Scott McLaughlin for the lead.
Fantastic stuff.
That's the kind of move you want to see. Aggressive but calculated. Scott McLaughlin gave him just enough room to pull it off, the 28 to the point.
That was awesome.
Grosjean goes way wide.
Way wide. Oh, and almost comes back in. That turn 5 spot is a real handful for Grosjean. There's going to be a new race leader. His name is Scott McLaughlin.
With no push to pass left, there was absolutely nothing Romain Grosjean could do. Scott got on the button, easily cleared him into turn 8, and to the lead go the Thirsty Threes.
Scott McLaughlin wins at Barber Motorsports Park and makes it 4 different winners.
How much better was that to be on offense all day long in that 3-stop strategy versus saving fuel?
I call it a happy driver strategy. I was a lot happier doing that, but I'm so thankful. First weekend for Good Ranchers on the car. What an amazing thing for them to be with us this weekend. My team advanced me to victory lane there. We had great fuel. Went past Grosjean there on a little bit of strategy, advanced past him, and I feel really good about it.
Watch the GMR Grand Prix Saturday, May 13th at 3:30 p.m. on NBC.
And with that, welcome to episode 24 of the Push to Pass podcast. This is going to be reviewing the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix. But before we get into that, I see that our host of characters, all two of them, believe it or not, were able to join us this week. First, Josh, glad to have you back. What a exciting race last week that we had at Barber. We'll break that down here momentarily. But how have you been since we spoke last?
Good. Hanging in there, trying to battle this weather, up and down, hot, cold, hot, cold. Hopefully for the month of May, we gradually get warmer and warmer. So at the end of the month, we are having one fantastic race. We're at hopefully RC's in there and having a great run.
And speaking of the aforementioned RC Enerson, I normally don't speak for Josh because obviously he can hold his own when it comes to this, but I think he'll agree with me on this. And RC, for me and Josh, we want to tell you how extremely proud we are of you able to field a car, as you've talked about, for the 500 to be an entry, and we get to spend the month of May with you. So we are so, I don't know if I can say this, freaking proud of you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, no, it's been a long time in the making. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time and finally kind of got things underway in January, February. So it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, RC, what can we look forward to this coming month from you? Are you in Indy right now? Are you getting fitted up for the car?
Yeah, I was at Barber, so I was at the race and figured that was a good stop to do on the way up, bringing the RV up, because obviously we got to load in the RVs to the driver owner lots, I believe on Thursday, so in 2 days. So I'm chilling at a campground in Indianapolis and ready to load in on Thursday, and I'll be here the entire month. So
very nice.
Yeah, we definitely can't wait to RC to get out there and to see you and officially meet. And I know we've spoken about having some adult sodas, and I can't wait to do that as well. But before we handle any of that, we did have a race this past weekend, as you mentioned, being in Barber for the Children's Alabama Indy Grand Prix. Before we get to that, we do have two special guests joining us, and I and Josh, and I think RC as well, are so proud to be able to say that we're going to have Don Cusick and Stefan Wilson. Stefan's going to be in the Indianapolis 500 as well, battling right there alongside RC. They're going to be joining us at the top of the hour. So that's why we've got a little bit of a time change. We had to make some adjustments, but you know what? We can do them, and that's what we're doing on the fly. But speaking of Barber, as RC just pointed out, he was there last weekend. What an interesting race. Especially going into it. There was a lot of talk, and I would imagine RC, you'll be able to back this up, and Josh as well, but there was a lot of talk over the weekend in the paddock about, is this going to be a 2 or 3 stop race? Which strategy is going to be the one that wins it? And Scott McLaughlin, congratulations to him in the Thirsty Threes. I love that pit crew name, the Thirsty Threes, for pulling off the 3-pit strategy that ultimately won him the race. And it's unfortunate because Romain Grosjean, I think he took the title away from Pato Award this weekend. He's had to play bridesmaid again. Roman has, but what an exciting race. RC, first, I'll let you elaborate a little bit on it being there. What did you see, and how exciting was that for you?
Well, I'd say the first thing would be, as far as Barber Motorsports Park races go, this was definitely one of the more exciting ones, I feel like. It's the perfect opportunity when they can make the race distance so close between the 2-stop and 3-stop. So you have so much going on. You really have to pay attention to the TV, the timing, who's pitting, who's on what strategy, to be able to pay attention. I mean, it gives the strategists kind of a headache trying to figure out what's going on. and it's kind of comes down to the wire. I do think Grosjean had that in the bag. When you look at how McLaughlin got by him, that was just a mistake on the braking portion. If he just hadn't run wide, even saving fuel, but it's so difficult to pass there that I don't think Scott would have had the opportunity to do it with the tire drag. You saw it with Will Power. Once the second he got close to Roman, he couldn't really go anywhere, even though he had blistering pace. He gets there, you get the aero wash, impossible. So if he just hadn't made that one small mistake to run wide at turn 5, I think he would have had it in the bag, even with saving fuel. It's just very, very difficult to pass there. But I was surprised in the mid pack and watching the race how much passing and how much. But I think the real chaos and the whole making the race exciting came from the two different strategies.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And Josh, I'll let you elaborate on this here as well. And what RC is referring to, if you didn't see it, the last stop that McLaughlin had, it was basically that's what the race came down to. McLaughlin was on cold tires. Grosjean was setting a blistering pace to catch him. He eventually does pass him. And then what RC was referring to, I believe, was lap 62, in turn 5. That is where Romain Grosjean made that one squabble. And McLaughlin was sitting back, biding his time, being patient. And when Grosjean made that wobble going too wide in turn 5, I believe, that's where McLaughlin made his pass and ultimately took control of the race and ended up winning. And you're absolutely right. As we'll look at the we'll look at the results here in a minute. But the Romain Grosjean had the most dominant car. I think you're absolutely right there. It was his to lose. He led 57 of the 90 laps. So yes, he for the majority of the race had the dominant entry, dominant car. But it was that one squabble, as you said, going wide in turn 5 on lap 62, I believe, is what cost Grosjean. And again, as I said, he becomes the bridesmaid again. But Josh, I know you watched the race this weekend as well. What was the perspective that you had?
Yeah, like you said, a little squabble. I mean, these race cars are so temperamental that, just like Pato in the first race of the year, he had that one split second where the engine just shut off and he lost the race. Grosjean had that little wobble there on lap 62, as you were saying, that just cost him the race. These cars are so temperamental that even the slightest window that you give your opponent or the person you're racing against, they're going to take advantage of this. These guys are professional drivers, and they see that, and they're going to pounce all over it. It was an exciting race. That was my first time ever watching a race at Barber, and I liked it. It piqued my interest a lot more. With it being I'm not a big street or road course fan. I'm always an oval. I'm always going to go in there for ovals. But Barber is interesting. I'd like to maybe next year go down and check out and see what it's like. From a guest we had on last week, Jay Query, he was talking about how beautiful it is down there. Just like to go down there and check out the course and see what it looks like on race day and get a perspective of what it looks like. But it was a great race. It was battled back and forth between Grosjean and McLaughlin. A little farther back. Award and Polo were having one heck of a battle going between 4th and 5th. It was a good weekend all around. It was a good weekend all around, and excited to move on to Indy and see what we can do on the road course. And then, of course, at the end of the week, end of the month, the Mac Daddy of them all, the Indy 500.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Josh. And I have a question for RC here in a minute, but I found an interesting statistic right before we went on air, and I found this on Twitter. Hat tip to Brian Fetrich on Twitter at 500 Indy 1911. Can one of you, or can both of you, name the only two drivers who have finished in the top 10 in all 4 races this year. And keep in mind, the NTT IndyCar Series has both been to all 3 oval, road, and street courses. But can you name the only 2 drivers who have finished in the top 10 in all 4 races this year?
I think I can.
I think I know one, and I might know the other, but
okay. RC, you buzzed in first. What's your 2 guesses?
I'm gonna go with Marcus Ericsson and Alex Palou.
That's
Josh,
exactly
what are your guesses?
That was exactly who I was thinking. I know Ericsson has, but I couldn't remember if Palou had or not.
Yeah,
you guys win the prize. Yep, you guys win the prize. You are absolutely right. Marcus Ericsson and Alex Palou are the only 2 drivers so far to finish in the top 10 in all 4 races. And it's interesting when the media talks to Marcus Ericsson after races, that's the one thing that he talks about is consistency is key, and that's exactly what he has done through these first 4 races. RC, the last question I have for you to wrap up Barber here, and we'll go through the points and results and whatnot. But how much momentum does a driver and a team carry from winning Barber like Scott McLaughlin and the Thirsty Threes did to carry over to not only the road course there at IMS, but the big enchilada, the Indianapolis 500?
I mean, as a driver specifically too, it is huge. It is really, really huge. I mean, I have many examples of it just in my own careers. Like when I was in USF 2000, we had won Winterfest, which was the preseason championship going into the full championship series. And we had won that, and that put us on the momentum for a full championship deal. I think we won 5 out of the 14 races and did really, really well. We ended up second in the championship, but then I look onto my Indy Lights, or Indy Next as it is now. I had my win at Mid-Ohio, and following that came like 4 podiums, all back to back to back. And it really, when you get that win, it really strives things forward. And you don't really change much you're doing in the car. Just the confidence level means a lot. It's worth that extra 10th or 2 that puts you up at the front.
Yeah, because just the reason why I asked, I know, going from Barber in the road course there to Indy in the oval, and then I guess the road course there in Indy as well. Just that's why I asked to see what the transition, I guess, from one to the other, and if you're able to carry the momentum from one track to a different track.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we went straight from Mid-Ohio, I believe, to like Iowa or something like that, and went from Iowa to I forget where it was after Iowa, but that schedule was 7 years ago. But you go through all the different street, road, oval, anything like that, and you bring that momentum with you. Because I mean, we've already driven on a lot of these circuits before, especially these guys in IndyCar. They've driven the same circuits a lot, so I mean, you come back to it, but you come with a completely different mindset of, you're like, hey, I'm the winner of the last race. I'm going to show up and I'm going to do great. And once you have that mindset, it's almost like a law of attraction thing, or I don't know really how to pinpoint it, but it's just a mindset, and it helps so much. It's crazy going into the next weekend.
Good stuff. Hopefully hopefully we'll see what McLaughlin and the Thirsty Threes have for the road course here at IMS. And then, like I said, the big enchilada that everyone circles on their calendar, that is the Indianapolis 500. But before we get into any of that, let's take a look at the results from today's races. They are coming up on the screen now. As we said, the winner there, Scott McLaughlin, and he was followed by Romain Grosjean, Will Power, Pato Award, Alex Palou, Christian Lundgaard, which I thought a great run for not only Lundgaard, but for that whole Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan racing team as well. Scott Dixon and Alexander Rossi. Coming in from 9 to 19, it is Felix Rosenquist, who I thought RC and Josh worked his tail off from what happened to him at the beginning of the race, where he had a good starting position, ends up getting shuffled to the back by spinning out, and then he had to definitely work his tail off, I think, to get to finish in the top 10. And then rounding out the top 10 was Marcus Ericsson. And then it was Marcus Armstrong, Kyle Kirkwood, Callum Ilott, Colton Herta, Joseph Newgarden, Renus VK, Graham Rahal, and Simon Pagino. And then 19 to 27, it's David Malukas, Santino Ferrucci, Elio Castroneves, Benjamin Peterson, Delvin DiFrancesca, Jack Harvey, Connor Daly, Augustin Campino, and finishing 27th was Stingray Robb. Any other takeaways, Josh or RC, that you have from Barber here that you want to talk about?
I think one of the more impressive things I saw was with Armstrong. I mean, I know he's a rookie, but I wouldn't exactly, like most of the rookies that come in, I wouldn't exactly classify him as a rookie just because of how much experience he has. But to come from the qualifying penalty to make it all the way up to 11th, kind of like almost not talked about at all in the broadcast, besides at the very end, but just kind of casually picked up spots through pit stops and through the pit stop strategy was a pretty impressive showing to get all the way up. I mean, you look at people like Power and what he did, and you look at the people that made up a ton of positions, that is extremely difficult to do at that track. It's every time I've ever raced there in my entire career, which I think would be like 5 different race weekends, where I started, I was within 1 or 2 positions of where I started to where I finished. And it was the same way for most people. And most of the time, those races run green all the way through. Had Stingray Robb not had a mechanical issue, that thing would have gone green all the way through. And I think that would have threw a whole nother wrench in this whole thing as well.
RC question. Do you prefer a race going all the way green, or do you like a couple cautions put in there so that it's not so much pressure put on your pit crew to be able to, get you in and get you out before everything, because everyone's going full speed?
That completely depends on where you're at on track, because yellows can help you a lot or they could hurt you a lot. So it kind of, I mean, if a yellow hurts you, then you're like, well, why didn't this race just go green? And then if you get a yellow and it really helps you, I was like, well, I'm glad that person either crashed or had mechanical, well, not glad they crashed, but like you're thankful for the yellow to come out and give you that position over everybody else. Because, I mean, everybody knows it. I mean, even in IndyCar, in pretty much any series that has massive amounts of downforce like this, it is very difficult to pass. It happens, and you see it all the time because the car setup. But in comparison to a lot of other series like GT racing, anything like that, there's a lot less passing, and it comes down to a lot of qualifying and where you're coming down to track position. So I think having a race run green, it kind of depends on where you're at. I think at the Indy 500, if you run green, it's really, really good because the racing's always really good. Road America, long straightaways, big passing opportunities. But a place like Barber, I think yellows just throws a whole nother wrench in it with people in different tires. I thought this race was, out of all the Barber races I've watched, which you picked a good one for your first Barber race to watch, was one of the better ones I've ever watched, just on the simple fact that the yellows flew at the right time. They had the right distance race to make it possible for the 3-stop strategy to work, and then the 2-stop strategy barely being able to make it. So I think there was a good fluctuation there, and I think that should be the goal for most races, is seeing what strategy, like giving multiple strategies. I mean, I've been a part of plenty where it's just this strategy. That's what you got to do. The only way you're going to do anything is gamble super early and just hope a yellow comes out. Where this one, the 3-stop strategy, if you had the pace, which the Penske cars did, you could make it work. I would have been very excited to see what that did going green all the way through. I do think Grosjean would have still had a very, very large lead, but I do think it was a really good race overall, and yeah.
Speaking of strategy in the last minutes we have before we're joined by our two guests, is when the race strategy is implemented, if you're going to do a 2-stop or 3-stop, is that something that is already discussed between the engineers and the strategist and the driver on Friday, or is that something you wait till after practice, after qualifying, and is implemented um, either before warm up or after warm up?
It kind of depends. I think one of the huge factors that people had was how was their car on reds. That was probably a big deciding factor. I don't think the Penske cars were as strong on reds as some other cars, like the Andretti cars. But I think everybody on primaries, like if you ran primaries the entire race, the 2-stop strategy was the way to go. But throwing the red stint in there, it makes it very, very difficult to go that long on them unless you're really conserving and you have the car set up to make sure you're not burning it up. And then the final factor that goes into it is track position. Where'd you qualify? If you're qualified up front and you already have the track position, you can afford to save fuel. Even if you only lose 1 to 2 spots, you're still substantially ahead. I mean, if you look at the time and scoring pillar on the broadcast, and by the time we're 10 laps in, first to 25th is like almost 30 seconds already, just because of the way the cars structure out and how close they can all run. It just ends up being that huge of distance. So I mean, by the time you get 10 laps in, the leader can pit and still not pop out in last place. So it comes down to track position, comes down to how your car handles on reds, and if you're able to stretch it. It ultimately comes down to
RC.
You very rarely see people have an open strategy. We're like, oh, I don't know if we're going to do this or that. Usually you have a set in stone strategy before you even go into the race, and you just kind of stick to your guns. The only thing that throws that in is a yellow. When you see a yellow come, like you saw the Penske guys, they were obviously just already set on that 3-stop strategy. They were going to do it no matter what. And the yellow happened to be in their favor. But they were set to do it, and they were already committed. And you look at a lot of the cars that started up front below, Otto, Grosjean, they were all since they had the track position, they're already up front. They were committed to the 2-stop already.
Good stuff, RC. Good stuff. Thank you for answering that. I was just curious, when do you implement your pit strategy? Is that going to be Friday, or is that going to be right before the race on Sunday? But speaking of the special guests that I mentioned at the top of the show, one of them is joining us now, and again, I don't like speaking for Josh because he can handle his own, but definitely honored and have the pleasure to be joined by one of the car owners that you're going to see enter the Indianapolis 500 here in about a few weeks' time, Don Cusick. Don, I know your time is valuable. I know you have a fancy dinner to get to this evening, but first and foremost, thank you for joining us. And how are things going? I know they're ramping up, and you're going to be heading our way here in the not so distant future.
Yeah, we're thanks for having us on. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you, Derik. We're super excited. It's really nice to have a little bit of run-up time this year, as opposed to the previous 2 years when everything was last minute and a scramble. We actually got to practice, and Steph actually got to run. I think he ran about 105 laps in the car, just on the one day of April practice. So yeah, it's good. We're super excited about it.
So, for what you can tell us here, tell us a little bit about how all this came about. I know you had to team up with Dry Reinbold Racing, but tell us how this all came about.
Yeah, well, you know the story about the first year, how I met Stefan and all that, and so that was just kind of what I thought was going to be a one-time experience. But fortunately for me, my wife loved it as much as I did, and she said, "We got to do this again." So we put together a team. It's led by Anders Anders Crum with Stefan as our driver, and then I added a couple of guys that worked for me for a number of years. Billy Morgan, basically our sponsorship liaison, and Tom Fink, our operations guy. And they just went to work. I mean, this is kind of what we were hoping to do, is to get with a team like Dreyer Reinbold with good cars and, good opportunity to run at the top of the pack. And so they just started having conversations, and one thing led to another, and we were able to sign with them, I think, October, which was phenomenal, because the last 2 times it was May. So yeah, that was really what it was. It was just a lot of conversation. Dreyer Reinbold knew the Wilson family because Justin ran with them, so that really helped, and they put it together. Oh, I just got a message. Stefan's trying to log on.
Good stuff. Okay. While he does that, I know you just touched on Stefan was able to run quite a few laps a couple weeks ago here at testing, and I think you had to come away from that pretty excited to where he was running. If memory serves me correctly, I think he finished in the top 10. So you have to be pretty excited going into the month of May with those results.
Yeah, super early and obviously hard to tell, but to jump in a car after a year and go out there and run, I think he ran 2:25, 9:60, 6 quick for the practice. That was a nice feeling. Certainly the polar opposite of where we'd been prior to that.
Yeah, definitely had to feel good, him being out of the car for as long as he has been, and being able to climb on board there and push out results that had to be pretty satisfying, I think, for everyone involved. Josh, I'm going to throw it over to you and have you ask some questions there to Don.
Mr. Cusick, thank you for coming on. It's an honor to have you on. How did you get into racing? I mean, have you always been in? I tried to do a little bit of research on you, and unfortunately I wasn't able to see too much. But how did you get into racing and wanting to be able to do this sport?
Hi, Josh. First of all, yeah, thanks so much for having us on. It's an honor for us. Big gap between my actual behind the wheel driving and now. But when I was 13, we started racing quarter midgets and got the bug for me personally driving. I guess my goal back then, most kids, they want to be policemen or firemen. I want to be an IndyCar driver, but a lack of talent, a lack of funds. When those two crossroads hit, it became apparent that wasn't going to happen for me. I raced a few different open wheel cars, and I got into motorcycles for a while. And then a long gap, got married, raised kids, started a business. And when I sold the business, my wife knew I was a car freak. So she said, the first thing you're going to do is go to the Thermal Club and join there. And I said, yeah, sure. So I think I sold the business on April 7th, and we bought a house in here on April 20th. So kind of reignited my driving passion, and then just a whole bunch of events. I was looking for something different than the 911 GT 3RSs that everybody drove, and I found Hendrick Motorsports just started selling used Gen 6 cars that they rebuilt, called them Track Attack cars. So I bought one of those and brought it out here, and one of the driving instructors knew Stefan and asked me if he could come out and drive it, and I said sure. And Stefan and I struck up a friendship that day, and one thing led to another. I think the line was, I said, I asked him if he could get me to the Indy 500 because I'd never been there, if he knew anybody for tickets and a good connection, and he made that connection. I invited him to come with me, and he goes, well, once you've driven there, you don't really want to be a fan, which I didn't understand until, of course, I was there. And so I made the financial blunder of saying, okay, how do we get there? and darn if he didn't get us a seat with Andretti in their 6th car, and we wrote the check and we went racing, and that was it. It was over for me at that point. I was hooked. My wife was hooked. There was little doubt but that we wanted to get back. So we spent the whole, second half of 2021 and the first half of 2022 trying to get a ride, and nothing really materialized. And we were very fortunate that Jay Fry and a group at IndyCar helped us to at least get that 33rd card with Foyt. And I believe that was Stefan, 3 weeks before the race, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. So not ideal, but we got to the race, and I think we built some of the credibility we needed to open the door and start talking with the guys at Dreyer Reinbold. And of course that all worked out, and the rest is history. Here we go with a great car and I think a great opportunity for 2023.
Welcome on, Mr. Wilson. Stefan Wilson joined us here. Excited to have you on with us. I know Derik was uber excited when he texted me earlier today. He texted me in all capitals, We're having a second driver on, and I was like, okay, this is going to be really cool. I can't wait. We got Mr. Cusick coming on, and we got Stefan Wilson along with RC Enerson. I mean, this is probably 24th show. This is probably our biggest show that we've had. I know Derik's excited about it.
We're excited to be here, and you certainly got my favorite IndyCar driver on the screen right now.
No, it's great to be joining you guys, and as Don said, the excitement's building.
Stefan, again, like Josh said, thank you for joining us, and just curious. I know we were talking with Don before you came on about testing a few weeks ago, and how exhilarating and how satisfying it was to be able to jump into a car that you had up for about a year. And the multitude of laps that you did, so the top 10. Talk about that a little bit.
It was a really strong day for us. We been out of the car for a year, so it was nice just to have that day separate of the month and just focus on getting up to speed. And it's kind of like riding a bike; it all comes back pretty quick, and then we could really crack in and crack on and get going through the rest of the program. We had a whole list of items we wanted to get through a checklist, and we got through that, relatively quickly. It's nice when it's like that. It's not often the case. I've been on the other end of that, where last year where it all came together so late, and you roll off the truck and you're in a bad window and you're literally, throwing changes at it all day. And you never really seem to make it that much better. You make it slightly better, but you never make it that much better. So it's definitely a nice feeling to finish that day and be like, we didn't need to do that many changes, and we're in sort of the ballpark of what I want to feel from the car. And it felt relatively fast that day, but it's a long month. There's still a whole week of practice left, and there's a whole group of smart engineers and drivers up and down the pit lane that are going to be trying to make their cars faster. So at the end of the day, we can't take that for granted, and we have to do our homework and make sure that we turn up at the week of May, the first week of practice, and we're back where we were, and we've made some gains ourselves. That's the only way that we can ensure that we're going to be back towards the sharp end again. You guys can hear me okay, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Stefan, can you give us a little bit of insight into what
Stefan is? What is?
Go ahead, Derik.
Yeah, the question I have is, when you're going into the Indianapolis 500, both of you have experience in doing so. Do you set what kind of goals do you set not only personally for the race, but as a team as well?
So For me, I mean, they're really, you can't really set a goal until you get the first couple of days of practice under the belt. We all we have an idea of where we want to be, and the goal is always to be qualifying well, racing well, have a good race car that can comfortably run 500 miles and race well. That's the goal. But it's a little bit difficult to just come in with that expectation right off the bat, because it's a challenge every year at Indy. The cars right now are so they're heavy and aero dependent, and we're probably a little light on downforce. We've definitely made the product better in terms of the changes that the series have made since over the winter, to make the racing a little bit better. But it's still tough, and it's still, you're trying to get that perfect recipe, and at the same time, all the teams are so competitive these days, up and down the field. So it's a challenge. You can't really come in with that mindset of like, this is what I want to achieve. This, until we get a few days into it and know what's realistic. And I think, ultimately, my ideal May, if I was to come away from it this year, would be to qualify in the Fast 12 and to finish inside the top 10. I think that's a realistic target based on how the test went and based on what the team has done in the off season, how I feel on the car. But we'll have to see once we get the first couple of days in, if that is going to be achievable.
Yeah, Stefan, I wanted to kind of ask you that question. I was like, I feel like we've both kind of been a part of
our
a program that's been a rushed thing, where it's like you show up last minute and
go ahead.
The car just doesn't have the speed, and you're doing the best you can in the car. And then just what's the confidence level of having that full preparation? You guys announced what, back in like February almost?
Yeah, we announced back in like November. Yeah. So, it's definitely gives you some confidence, it's, and that the team has really done a lot of prep on the car. But again, Indy's Indy, it doesn't know anyone anything. And we saw really competitive guys years ago get bumped. We saw Hinch get bumped out of the field. We saw Fernando Alonso get bumped. So like that thought is always in the back of your head, but at the same time, I think having that test day sort of helped know that at least the balance of the car and the setup is in the window. So now we just need to make sure that it's got the speed on qualifying, just to give ourselves a good qualifying position, because the racing at Indy, it's so important to be starting towards the front. It's not like the old days of like the DW12 and then with the aero kits, where you could start 33rd and if you had a good car, you could move forward and find your way at the front. It really is a track position race almost now. So we've got to measure up that risk versus reward. We've got to go for it, but at the same time, we don't have that luxury of like, being a guaranteed starting spot anymore. So if you risk it too much, then you're risking a lot. So
I have two. I did notice it, and this is going to be for Don and RC. Elio Castro, that the track is the one that picks the winner. How perspectives?
I think I know where he's trying to get on this one. But I mean, I'll let Stefan go first. But I think we both know it comes down to really good strategy and no mistakes. That's really the ticket. I mean, you looked at last year, and Dixon looked like the overall, like from the green flag, pretty much the guaranteed winner. And then he gets a pit speeding penalty, and then Pelot's now the takeover, and then he gets a pit speeding penalty, and then now Marcus takes over, coming out of like almost nowhere. I mean, it is very difficult. I mean, everybody puts pools together. Probably people are putting bets together. It's almost like trying to bet on Talladega NASCAR. You never really know who's going to come across that start line first. I mean, Alexander Rossi was one of the surprise ones as well. I mean, saved the fuel and made it work, and the strategy came out right. Was he the fastest car? Probably not. But it's just the way the cards fall. And I mean, Stefan could probably attest to that. You were in position many times here to be in that spot, and if you get a lucky yellow, it helps you. But if you don't get it, it kind of screws you. So it's just kind of, I feel like that is right. Indy kind of does pick the winner.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You know, they always say that Indy picks the winner, but it just goes to show that there is that element of luck involved in it. There's a lot of skill, but there is some luck involved. And then, as RC pointed out, it's so much about not making mistakes. It's so easy to lose. The Indy 500 is what it really comes down to. There's only one way to win it. There's 1,000 ways to lose it. And, you know, that's something that I've put on, you know, I've taken on board a lot, you know, having, you know, making a few mistakes. I made a mistake last year in the pits on the first pit stop, and I don't like making mistakes. So I want to rectify that. And, you know, I take that to heart, and it's sort of something that I've really thought about this off season, is just wanting to execute and do everything perfect, have a perfect month. And that's, I'm so hungry for that. You know, everyone is, but more so now myself now than ever. You know, it's just like it's time to you know, have a really solid, clean month and come away with a good result. So, you know, that's what we're shooting for. And you know, I think if you can minimize mistakes on race day, then it's going to give you a good shot. And then you're going to have good pit stops, a fast car, a really well handling car in traffic, and you know, then it's the rest is down to some luck at the end of the day.
That's what makes the Indy 500 so special.
Yeah.
I've watched. I think this will be the 60th Indy 500 I've watched. Even back in
That's
the
awesome.
days of the front engine roadsters. And man, you know what? It's exciting every single time. You just don't know who's going to win the race. It's. I could count on one hand the amount of times that somebody actually ran away with a race, and even some of those when it looked like it was a done deal. A part broke on the turbine car back whenever that was 68 or 69, and race over. You know, so yeah, it's really fun.
On Parnelli Jones's car, right?
That's Parnelli Jones.
There you go.
Hey, Mr. Cusick.
For a young guy.
Mr. Cusick, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What is it like being What is it like being the owner of a car on race day? I mean,
phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. I will tell you that of all the things I've done in my life, and I've done quite a few things, that's the one thing that it's almost inexplicable. You're standing on the grid, all the people, all the circumstance and pomp, and it's just surreal. I mean, honestly, I brought guys out there that are pretty stoic, sponsors, onto the track. And when the jets fly over, I look at them and they got tears running down their eyes. It's amazing. It truly is. And, you know, much like Stefan said to me, once you've been there as a driver, you don't really want to go as a spectator. I can't imagine being there without being a car owner or a major sponsor and being able to participate in everything that is the Indy 500. It's truly an amazing experience.
I can imagine it's nerve-wracking too. You know, you put so much time and energy into it, and you just want everything to go right. I can imagine.
I'm always nervous for the driver, for Steph. You know, I've got butterflies like he does, but he's got to go out and do the job. I will generally stand in the pits with the headphone on, pacing back and forth until I wear a pair of shoes.
It's true.
I can't go up in the suite and watch. I mean, you can't see anything from behind the pit wall, really, but I listen, and I can't go up in the suite and watch. I got to be there. So, Yeah, it's a pretty big thrill. It really is. It's one of the bigger thrills, certainly the biggest thrill in my sporting life.
That's what I've loved working with Don so much, is just how passionate he is for the Indy 500. I mean, I remember the first year we worked together in 2021. You know, I didn't know Don very well at the time. You know, we just had a couple of interactions, and then we're at the Indy 500 together. And you know, first day of practice happens. He's on California time. We did a car launch that day, so we did the car launch at like 7 a.m., which is 4 a.m. his time. He's there, bright and bushy-eyed. And then the whole day of practice, every time, like the whole week, but the first day blew me away. Every time I came in to stop, I could see Don on the pits, on the just over the wall, headset on, just loving it. And it's just like I expected him. Okay, he's gonna be there for an hour, and then he's gonna get bored of this. And he was there the entire day, and then the next day and the next day, every day of May, you can find Don Cusick on pit lane. I've never met someone with just as much passion as he does for the race. You know, it's awesome. It's so cool to be a driver for him.
That's nice. It's you know, it's just fun to interact with all the other drivers, the fans, and the best part is my wife was there with me too, standing in the pits all day long.
Yeah.
She may be a bigger fan than I am, if that's possible.
That's always a good thing to get the significant other on board, because then that's something you can do together.
It helps. It helps.
Mr. Cusick, you also said something. How hard is it to go out and get sponsors for the cars? I've talked to a couple announcers that
Don.
How hard is it to get the sponsors to come on board?
It's hard.
I hate
I'm sure RT will tell you it's a lot of work. You know, it's interesting because our sponsors, we still have all the same sponsors from when we started, and then we've of course added some. I think kind of the joke in the paddock is we have 20 sponsors on the car. But yeah, it's you know, hit the friends, hit the family, hit the associates, and I think once you get them out there and they see it, they become hooked on it like we are, and then they grow with us, which is great. So it's a little unconventional, I think, to have 20 sponsors painted onto a car, but it's also really cool because we're introducing probably I don't know, 60, 80, 100 people, many of whom have never been to an IndyCar race. And every time we do, the reaction's been super positive. They like it, and they want to sign on for the next one. So that's kind of how we're building our program from you know, the bottom up, basically.
Okay.
The last question I have for both Stefan and Don, because I know Don, you have a prior engagement that you need to get to. I think Art can probably answer this as well, but night before the 500, is there a special routine, Don, you go through, and what's the feeling the night before the race when you know you wake up tomorrow morning and it's for all the,
you know, I was thinking about that today. It's funny. So yeah, we do have a routine. The last 2 years we've had our sponsor appreciation get together the night before the race. Starts kind of early and ends a little bit early, and yeah, it's hard to sleep. I mean, I really equate it to back when I was a very young lad, and you know, we used to go to Disneyland on my birthday every year, and I couldn't wait to go to sleep because then morning came quicker. So I go to sleep early. I mean, I'm in bed probably by 9 o'clock, and I'm also up at 3:30 in the morning. And I was the first one in the garage. I unlocked it on race day and started greeting the fans. And I mean, it's super special. It really is. It's a mix of excitement and just, I don't know, you know, you just never know what's going to happen. So I think you're super hopeful, you're super excited, and you just really get caught up in all the pageantry and and everything that it is. And it's a really super special day. But yeah, I'm in bed early so I can get up early because I want to soak every second of it in that I can. By the way, the cannon is really loud right before the sun comes up.
Yes,
That
it
was one
is.
thing that surprised me.
I'll have to find out how that feeling goes once, hopefully, I make the race. I got a chance to make it 2 years ago, and we didn't make it because it was a rough
Josh,
job.
do you want?
And I came through all the problems that you have when you build the car in 30-something days and try to make the field. So I'm hoping to do that this year, and hopefully I can pick up a routine. Maybe Stefan can tell me what he does.
There's not much to it, you just you try and get some sleep, you try and rest, but it's just like any big race I'll see. You just you're already playing out scenarios in your head. You're trying to think about what all is going to happen and how you can react to certain things and the race start and just everything that lies ahead of you in the next 24 hours and trying to be as prepared as possible. But I know that all I know is that on race day morning, that time from waking up to that loud cannon going off and to the green flag, it flies by. You just it goes by so quick, and you don't even realize. You blink, and then all of a sudden you're on the grid. So it's get things done that you need to get done early because you know that your time is not going to be your own. Anything past 8:30, 9 a.m. It's gonna you're not gonna have time to do it. So I think you got a good shot this year, Rossi, and I think that it'd be nice to see you and have a little bit better prepared car and get an opportunity to really show what you could do.
Yeah, hopefully make one of these full-time drivers sweat a little bit.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on board. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think we're going to have fun in May. So.
Good stuff.
Yeah, going to make us all in it. That's the beauty of Indy.
Derik, did you have anything else you want to say?
Derik's having some technical issues.
I think he's having
a question. Don. Yeah. Hopefully I'm back. It's my internet's horrible. But Don, before you leave, there's a question in chat. I was hoping you would address. One of our premier bettors that comes on that talks about the betting side of IndyCar. Would love to see sisters on maybe your car or someone else's. Can you talk about that a little bit before you have to go?
Yeah, sure. We'd love to have him. I just saw the chat and answered him. Absolutely, we would love to have that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Stefan, we still have the rear wing side plates available. So if they want to join us, let me know. We'd love to have them.
You heard it right there. Yeah. I think I've got really good odds right now as well. Like, it's like 70 plus 7,500 to win. So I'm like,
I don't even
know. Pretty good odds.
Yeah, I like it.
Hey, if you're gonna win, I'll put money on it. I'm put money on it right now.
We're going to do our level best, I can tell you that. I mean, the first thing DRR said to us before we signed on was, we're in this thing to win, so hope you're prepared for that. And we're like, yeah, that'd work.
Yeah. No, DRR have done a really nice job and, preparing the cars, and, it's a really testament to the crew and the guys that they've been able to acquire over the years. And, at the same time, the level of dedication that they put into the cars. I think that's what I saw when I met with them, and that's what Ryan saw as well, and what got him so excited, and, last year, Ryan chose to sit out rather than do what I did. So, it was reassuring to get see him sign on as well, and that he was as excited about the opportunity that I saw as well.
Yeah, you guys look really strong at the open test. That was really good to see. It's always anybody that's doing a just 500 effort or anything like that, you love to see it. That's what the fans like to go for, even though the bar is set so low. From the outside perspective, as drivers, you're like, well, I set my bar way higher than that. And it was really cool to see you guys have the pace you guys did.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, no, it was, when it goes like that the day, then you leave pretty happy that, it's, but as I said, there's still a whole week of testing, and, I'm sure, you never know what that first test is going to be like, in terms of what people are really showing. And what we have to do now is go out there in the practice week and actually back that up and show that it's, that it's consistent. So
I do. How was that like?
What's that?
How was that win like on the open test? I'm pretty sure it was like, 15 mile an hour sustained, 20, 30.
I think it was 18 sustained and 36 mile per hour, guys.
That's a rough day at Indy.
It is. And having the experience that I had last year at Fast Friday, which was absolutely terrifying, because the boost is turned up, you're on low downforce, and my car just generally wasn't handling the best. And it just kind of really exposes all those things. So, I was terrified last year. And I think I was the first guy out to do a qualifying sim, and I'm stupid and just did the whole 4 laps instead of bailing after 2. And then I saw everyone bailing after 2 laps, and I'm like, okay, it wasn't just me that was having a hard time of it. And so at the test, when I saw those wins, I'm like, oh crap, like this is ideal. First day back in the car for a year, and to have that. And you know what? It wasn't that bad. Like I didn't think so. Like it was gusty, and hell of a tailwind down the back straight. The speeds were crazy different from one end to the other. But I was much more apprehensive going into it, and at the end I got going, and I was like, this is not so bad. So, I think it's crazy how many more windy days we have at the Speedway lately in the last sort of couple of years than we've had in the past. So I'm sure that wind is going to raise its head again in practice week. I'll be surprised if we get away without at least one windy day.
Well, we'll just have to pray for good weather.
Yeah.
We'll have to pray for good weather, and I think once you turn that qualifying boost up and the low downforce, it really magnifies it. I think when you're already running in traffic, you're already getting turbulent air, so what's just a little more wind type of mentality. But
the only thing where it was like kind of hairy was off of turn 4, where that wind hit your nose, and sometimes it just the car just didn't like it. So that was the only time where you just had to be have your wits about you and just be really paying attention. But like you said, once you're on the race downforce, it helps mask that somewhat.
Well, Mr. Cusick and Stefan, we'd like to thank you for being on, and good luck this coming May. Hopefully you guys can come away with a great starting position and a great finishing position. We greatly appreciate you coming on behalf of me and Derik and RC, and good luck this coming May.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. And if you're out at Indy, come see us in it's number 24. I don't know what garage we're in yet, but come say hi.
We will definitely find you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thanks, guys.
I'll probably
good luck, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
I see we have Mike on from Indy Bet. How you doing, Mike?
What's up, boys? That was an interesting, that was a fun conversation there. I love it that that Don is asking. I love it that Steph knows his odds, like off the top of his head. He's like, yeah, I think I'm 75-1, which is
And he
awesome.
was. Yeah.
And
I'm curious.
And man, if Don, I think, lives in Vegas, man, like he should be able to set up a meeting with Caesars and slap them. They just throw out marketing money like it's nothing to save on some taxes. So man, we should maybe make some phone calls. I know Doug Bowles has got some connections to Caesars and their with their sports book. Maybe we can like manifest that, make that happen somehow. Like that would be awesome to see Caesars or DraftKings or FanDuel on the side of a car, and then maybe that would get us some more betting IndyCar momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm kind of curious what his odds are.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, as like he knew his odds off the top of his head. I don't even know what mine are.
Put it in the chat, man. You're 300-1. So
Yeah.
I said in the chat we could fund your cars. You're about 50-1, the top 5, and we could fund your cars for the next couple of years. If we hit that top 5.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So, Mike, this past weekend we had Barber. Did you walk away with a bag full of money?
Yeah, man. Barber was good. Barber, we hit a winner. So Tony and I stayed hot on the Burnout Bets. Show. We McLaughlin was one of our guys. We had McLaughlin, Pillow, an award to win. Were our 3 to win tickets. So we cashed the McLaughlin bet. I added a bunch more McLaughlin when they tweeted out the tires in the morning. I noticed that all those Penske cars were going to start on the blacks and do the 3 stoppers, and just something told me that him being the only guy in the top 5 on blacks made me want to double down a little bit more on him. So he was a 6-1 winner. Granted, it would have been, I had way more money on Pillow, and Power kind of spoiled his top 3, even though I think he finished 5th. So Pillow would have been a much bigger win, but it was still a profitable week. Anytime I hit a winner, especially at 6-1, that was awesome. So yeah, the weekend worked out great. Barber's all about figuring out who's going to qualify and betting those numbers beforehand. And the bets were McLaughlin, Pillow, and Award, and they all made the top 6. Grosjean kind of spoiled my party because I had bets on 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the top 6. So all I had to do was add Grosjean to my card for top 3 and cash that bet too. So so it was a good weekend, man. It was a profitable weekend, and anybody that hopefully some people listened to what we were saying and followed and made some money along with us.
I made $7. I put $90 out there I spread it out between different ones. I had a three matchup parlay going. That didn't hit. I only hit one of them, but I was able to hit. I hit Roman finishing well. I think I had him in the top 5, and Pato finishing in the top 5, and so I was able to win $97 back. So I'll be taking that.
Losing 90.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I was excited. $7 was always going to be good for me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I had to go back and look at the account because I knew I hit the winner with McLaughlin, but I knew that I was heavily invested in Pillow top 3 and Pillow to win. So when Power snuck up on that 3-stop strategy and Pillow kind of shuffled back to 5th with Award there. I was like, oh man, let's see how this worked out. But when all the math was done, I hit an Ericsson over Kirkwood matchup. I told you I was going to fade Kirkwood at this track. Not really an Andretti track for setup, more of a Ganassi Penske track. And it's pretty much how it turned out, absent Grosjean, who's been pretty darn impressive. I'm going to have to start betting him and giving him more looks. But yeah, so it worked out well and hit another winner. That's, let's see, all but one this year. The only one we missed was Kirkwood, and we were all over that. So good week.
That is awesome.
Mike, hopefully my audio is working. This internet's terrible. But how much information and data can you take from this race and imply it to what's coming up at the road course at Indy, or is this just kind of a wash?
Well, it's funny you say the word wash, no pun intended. I'm not going to take a ton from the race last year at Indy. If you recall, that was a washout. I believe hurt a slitter, like it was just a mess in the weather. So you got to be careful and know that when you're placing your bets or doing your research. I remember because I had a very large ticket on Power at 12-1. He hit the pole. He went all the way down to like 2-1. I thought he would have ran away with that race if it was a dry, sunny day. And it just wasn't to be with the wet weather, just screwing everything up. So I'll take a little bit from Barber. Moreover, you apply it to next year. Each track's different, each setup's different. But it is applicable information for other road courses. I mean, I think these guys come into the races with different packages for road, street, and obviously oval. So yeah, I might it'll play in a little bit. Like I expect to be on Power again in 2 weeks here at Indy. Another race where qualifying is important, weather is important. You have to watch out for all that stuff. So yeah, there's a little bit to it, but I'd rather lean more on track-to-track history.
Yeah, I feel like
also too. Do you anticipate? Go ahead, RC.
Well, I just feel like it's kind of crazy from year to year, or even during the middle of the season, just team performance. I mean, it wasn't what last year was pretty much the breakout year for McLaren. Like they probably wouldn't even been on the betting board for anybody's consideration for majority of it. And then they came out breaking through. Andretti had a terrible year. And now this year, Andretti's come out swinging. Penske hasn't exactly been the strongest until they went to Barber. Besides McLaughlin, obviously at St. Pete, he was quick. But, I mean, you didn't really see them up there until we saw Barber. And then you look at Indy GP with the difference in weather, especially this time of year. And it's like, well, which team's been performing well? Which one's going to do well if it rains? How do you even structure that?
Yes, that's why they build these giant casinos, man. It's not, you got. I mean, look, the cool part about betting IndyCar is I am paying and guys like us way more attention to the ins and outs of what people are saying, what their performance is week to week, what practice times are, why practice times might in this like for instance at Barber this week, practice 1 was a giant mess because of the red flags. Guys got held up. So I didn't put a ton of stock at some times, and I was able, they didn't even get the red tires on. So, I forget what it might have been practice 2, but anyway, but the point being is like the sports books don't pay attention to any of that for IndyCar. They're not taking a ton of bets. So it's an opportunity to just know more than the sports book and make money. You always start with betting numbers and not drivers. So you have to kind of find value and you have to make decisions and, it depends if you're doing it for your fun or you're trying to make, $7 profit every week. Hey,
Mike, the last
that ROI. That's, if you think about it, if you extrapolate some more money on it, that's pretty good. Can't get that in the bank.
Yep.
Mike, the last question that I have, how much line movement do you anticipate for the 500 between now and race weekend?
A lot. So, I mean, it'll be the second. So that's another thing. Like there won't be any line movement when we're out here on the test days and some of the warm up days. But the second we get to the week of qualifying, then they'll pull down the numbers. They'll just come off the board completely. And the sports books will wait for qualifying to happen. And then you'll see a whole reshuffle based on qualifying of the numbers. So, man, I was just scrolling through it. If you think that RC or Steph's going to put the car, in the top 10 or the top 15, RC's 300 is going to very quickly drop to 50. And I know one year I had a really big bet on JR Hildebrand. It was like a charity bet where I said, I'd basically take all the winnings and donate to charity. And it was like 250 to 1. And then he qualified pretty well and it dropped all the way to, I believe, 25 or 30, something like that. So yeah, it's going to move after qualifying or leading up to qualifying. So now is the time, I would say, maybe a little bit after the GP to get those bets in. I think we've talked about this before. I know I've already put, I have a Dixon ticket For instance, I have a Dixon ticket at 9-1. He's down to 6.5-1. And a Rosenquist ticket. He's still sitting at 30. But I expect Rosenquist to qualify. I think the McLarens will be fast. I think he'll qualify, maybe single digits, maybe top 10. And I expect that 30 to drop. So I'm trying to get in early. So yeah, there'll be some movement. Some people might go the other way, Dixon and O'Ward are your favorites right now. If they don't, Newgarden's 8-1. I expect him to go the other way. He doesn't qualify well. He doesn't do well at Indy. Like that's just they're setting that number based on name recognition and championship standings and etc. That probably goes the other way. So that's a guy you wait on versus pouncing on now. He's 8-1 now. He probably goes off at like 10 to 15 something like that if he doesn't qualify well.
Josh, RC, anything else that you want to ask Mike before we let him go?
One thing I have is, does my 300-1 change if I qualify for the race?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think if you make the race, you'll be more. If you're sitting there in the 33rd spot, man, you'll probably get down to like 200 or even 100. So
let's just say I'm like 20th, 25th. How far down would it drop?
50, 75-1.
Okay, so what you're saying is if I'm going to bet on myself, I should do it before qualifying.
That's right. Do it now.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm in.
There you go. I'm in. I got a couple bucks on you. I can do that. That's worth it. So you'll have a
really good shot. Really, really good shot. These guys at Able Motorsports, they've been prepping the car since February. It looks so pristine. It is. I'm hopefully going to be insanely surprised on May 16th when I get in.
Yeah, look, you get in the car and you post a good time, your numbers will drop even on May 16th, maybe. So depending on if the sports books are paying any attention to us. So yeah, man, that's awesome. Good luck. And yeah, put that 301 is the highest it goes. So
is 300 like you bet $1, you win 300?
That's how it works. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. $10 to win 3,000.
Okay.
$100 to win 30,000. Mike, I don't have a question. All I have to do is say we got your Gator boy. He's in town, Mr. Richardson. You did. I was sitting at the Colts complex, and when CJ went off the board second, I was like, oh crap, we're getting Will Levis, because I thought Irsay was just so in love with Levis. But I guess the pick was always going to be Anthony Richardson. So I can't wait to see. Hopefully, I say he should start right away. Other people tell him he's not, but we'll see. But excited to have him in town.
Yeah, I hope that works out for you again. I should have bet that because Tony and I were talking about that, and I just had a feeling they kept showing us the Colts playing in Gainesville all this time. So we'll see. Hopefully he brings you a championship that he never brought Florida. So,
Mike, good stuff as always. Hopefully, we'll be able to see you out at IMS here for the month. We'll meet up and maybe we'll have a couple adult sodas as well. But Mike, huge thank you as always for joining us, and we'll look forward to talking with you next week from the road course here in Indy.
All right, guys, have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
All right, good stuff. Hopefully you've been following the advice that Mike has been giving throughout the season. I know RC is going to run out to the sports books and push his line as far as he can. But that does it, fellas, for this episode. Push your line not only in the betting world but on the track as well. But fellas, that does it for this episode. Anybody else have anything before we get to the show closer and we get on out of here?
I'm all good.
No, I'm good. Can't wait for the month of May to start.
Just can't thank you guys enough for having all on here. It was awesome to have Stefan and Don on here. I mean, me and Stefan, we've been sim racing together for the past since 2020 when all the sim racing thing was happening. So we've been in contact. So it was cool to see him on here, and hopefully you guys get more drivers on here.
Maybe you can help us out, convince somebody
Definitely.
in the garage to come on this May.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point there by RC. Huge thank you to not only Don Cusick, but Stefan Wilson for joining us, and Mike from Burnout Sports and Burnout Bets. Definitely love all of the insight that all three of you, and of course with RC Enerson, has brought to this show as well. So like I said, that does it for this week's episode. Join us again next week where we will be previewing the GMS. I believe that's what, or yeah, it's GMS, I believe, or GMR. I think that's what it is. GMR Grand Prix out there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I know I'll be out there. I know Josh will be out there, and hopefully we'll be able to run into RC as well. So for Derik, Josh, and RC,
track on May 5th. So.
Absolutely, you'll be out there, and we will have a grand old time, as they like to say. So for myself, Josh, and RC, and everyone else here at the Push to Pass podcast, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in 1 week's time.
Good morning, sports fans, from Indianapolis, Indiana, from the world's greatest race course.
This is a rite of passage. This is lore, passed down from generation to generation. Even those stories you can't remember are moments you never forget. This is where heroes become legends, and legends become legendary. From Ray Haroon to Mario Andretti and Marcus Ericsson, this story takes a whole month to tell.
You just don't know what Indy means.
This is a special blend of speed, tradition, and magic. This is blood, sweat, tears, and maybe a few beers. But it's much more. So much more. This is world class and worldwide. Hoosier hospitality on a global stage. This is the Indy 500, but you've never seen this 500. This is May.